Hey folks, how's it going? What's up, January 2020? Lots of 20s, right? The premise of this video is to inform you, the community, what's going on. Maybe have a slight discussion about some things that have been happening, maybe in the scene, and just give my roundabout opinion. Now, I'm just someone giving my opinion. That's what this channel is. For 3, 4, maybe it's even 5 months now, I've covered Gears 5. Maybe it's 5 or 4 months, somewhere around that area, right? I've just tried to say, here's what I'd do, here's what I'd like to see, formulate some discussions that generate some opinion. That's it, really. As a result, you end up in really, really bizarre situations, where I now have everybody sit up a little bit smarter. You have people reacting to your videos, people making videos about you. You're just getting a load of little, drama, little things like that for no reason. It's become quite silly, and I'll tell you the reason why I'm mentioning that is the community begins to eat itself. When a game is dying and the devs aren't really doing much about it, and you have two sides, those two sides come out and they begin to have a go at each other. And they begin to say, oh, the reason the game's dying is because you like this stance and I like this stance. A very, very good example is for anybody that played the DayZ mod. So the Arma 2 original DayZ. Me and my mates used to play this game all the time. And then Dean Hall, who was the developer owner of this mod, basically made a standalone game, and during the standalone it took years and years and years and years to come out, and there was very little updates and very little change. And every time there was a bad update or the game was unpopular, the two sides would come out. There would be my side, which was like, we just want the game to be fun, we want it to be like a military shooter where you have to survive and there's a lot of PvP interaction. And then there was the other side that wanted extreme realism, like, if you interacted with the wrong water bottle, you'd get a disease. Then you had to get water tablets. The water tablets needed to be brand new, or they could get infected. You needed to make a bandage. There was, you hadn't eaten in 5 minutes. You need to constantly eat. And that was going on and on. And all whilst this was happening, the community was eating each other alive and arguing with each other, and the game wasn't really getting developed. And everyone was like, "You're to blame. Dean doesn't want the game to be a PvP game." And then the PvPers would be like, well, the only reason it was successful was because of PvP. We don't want a hyper-realistic survival game. It won't work. And everyone was just shouting back and forth into a void because nothing was happening with the game. And that's what's happening right now with Gears. The community is beginning to eat themselves up because there are multiple stances and people think that a certain stance is going to save or break the game. Well, let me tell you, it won't. Let's say I love Gears 1 and I want the game to be exactly like Gears 1, which I don't, but just for argument's sake, and somebody wants the game to be exactly like Gears 2. Those are two polar opposite games. Now, those two people on Twitter will be arguing it needs to be like Gears 1, it needs to be like Gears 2, but really, like I've always said, just give your feedback in a constructive manner, and then that's all you can do. You've done your job, then it's up to TC. So, when we have an example like this, which is a professional player, I believe, called Icy, yesterday he started saying, I don't know why these people who work on the game and adjust the movement speeds or change the shotgun. I don't know why these people who work on the game and adjust the movement speeds or change the shotgun think they know more than people who play it for a living at the highest level. You only care about content creators, and that's fine, but without us pros, you don't have a game. Now, I said, what a ludicrous statement. Should the pro scene be taken into account? Yeah, it probably should do, but it's not League of Legends, it doesn't have 1 billion views, it's not 20 million to buy into a slot, it's Gears of War. The scene is minuscule, there's about 10,000 views on a tournament, about 9,000 views on a skin. This is delusion. And he went on to have a rant about how he's not listened to, but he's never put his opinion out there in any strict or formulated way. So how are they meant to know what Icy thinks if he never says it? So all these pros are now coming out as the game's sort of quote dying and saying, this is what I think. But the pros then need to understand that there are what's happening right now. There are updates, and updates have slots. This isn't a PC game. It doesn't get updated overnight. It can't be hot fixed or chucked into the game. It needs to be planned and go into an update. So obviously, right now, we're going to be slowly moving towards the third operation. Now, the movement changes that TC have obviously listened to from pro players, from people like myself that have all formulated an opinion on this movement, they will have listened to it all, and then it will get changed in the next potential update. So there are a lot of pro players, and there are a lot of people on Twitter saying that content creators have ruined the game, you know, casuals have ruined the game, pros have ruined the game, but the reality is, TC probably aren't making a statement because they can't do the update anyway. I guarantee if TC put out a status saying, we're looking at the movement, it'll be fixed in the future, people will go, oh, boo, they're not listening, it's taking so long. But, like we said in my last video, the sad reality of the situation is they're owned by Microsoft, they're not an individual company, they're practicing, they're patching sort of process, there's a lot of P's, a lot of alliterations in there, through their sort of system, and you can't just churn out updates. It's naturally going to be slow due to the system they're on. And I know I've started off with a 6-minute talk, but I think it needs to be said that a lot of pro players are living in a land of delusion where they think they're more important than they are. Should the pro players be listened to? Absolutely, yes. They obviously play the game at a high level, you know, even though personally, I think that the pro scene of Gears is more about who wants to compete rather than who's the best. What I mean by that is League of Legends, Dota, these are all seeds. CSGO, you are seeded and it all works, and you're a ranked team and you're a set team and you've been playing a long time and you're a good team, right? You have worked your way through basically the nobodies, the trash, the ESCA players. You've become a good team. In Gears of War, you can just sign up and compete and end up in the tournament if you do well enough. It's not a big seeded event. It's not anything wild. Most of the time, from what I've witnessed on Twitter, is that people that get picked up to play are people that can travel. It's not necessarily about their skill. It's about their ability to travel to the event and form a group and practice, which is no problem with. I have no problem with pro players linking up, going to tournaments and having a blast. But we need to knock down the delusion level a little bit, because it's not League of Legends, it's not the biggest esports game in the world, and if you also, on top of all of that, aren't putting out your opinion, how are TC meant to know? So to sum up, you know, it's the equivalent of League of Legends, right? You have some world-class professional jungler. They've had junglers balance the game before, and it's been dire. Sometimes being a good player doesn't mean you understand balance. Now, some may understand balance, absolutely 100% agree. Some might have good viewpoints, some may have different viewpoints from me, from casuals, from content creators, from horde players, because they play the game in a different manner, and their viewpoint should be listened to and represented. But to say that basically everybody that makes content is basically a bum that has no idea about the game is ridiculous. I guess that one was also kind of aimed at me. Well, I used to play the game at a very, very high level. Literally would go toe-to-toe with Jordan, Fitzer, Max Pax. We'd be taking maps and winning games versus Dark Angel. We were all good players. I don't play the game nearly as much, but I would, honestly, I'm not just saying this, if you put me on LAN against a professional team, I would rack up kills. People will laugh at that, but you put me in CSGO or League of Legends, I'm not killing anybody. Because skill gap in Gears is not that great. That might be the game we're playing on, that might be the scene we're in, but all I'm saying is, listen, you pro players definitely play the game in a different manner. You definitely should be listened to. I'm not that guy that's going to shit on pros for no reason, but what I will say, and I did say it out loud on Twitter, is count yourself lucky that there even is a scene, because realistically, if this was an indie game, with the amount of player base it's got and the viewership figures, there wouldn't be $1 million tournaments. There's no chance. The reason there's $1 million tournaments is it's a Microsoft-backed game, and because it's a Microsoft-backed game, you're going to have to take the Microsoft approach. That's just the way it is. Microsoft want loads of casual players, so you're going to end up with a bit of a casual game. It absolutely sucks, but that's what it is, isn't it? It's going to be slow at patching. Why? Because it's a Microsoft game. So you've got to take the rough with the smooth. And if you don't like the rough and you hate Gears 5 so much, why not? If the scene is so big, in his own words, the pro scene is so big that Gears would basically doesn't exist without pro players. If that scene is so big, why not go and play Gears 4 or Gears UE or Gears 2, whatever the game is you like, and reach out to sponsors and say, hey, we're an absolute massive scene. Come and sponsor us for an event. We'll put on the show of a lifetime, and we'll all go play and practice Gears 2, Gears 4, whatever it is you want to play. And the reason they're not doing that is because the scene isn't that big. And that's what we need to wake up from, that delusion. We need to walk before we're running. We need to get the core game going. We need to get the core game being fun before we can consider a thriving esports. And I don't think anything I'm saying is outrageous. I think it's pretty sensible and obvious stuff. Get the core game being fun. Get all the casuals loving it. Slowly tweak it so, yes, there's a bit of a skill gap and people enjoy it. But if people constantly have fun, people will naturally compete. If I was having a blast on Gears 5, I would play scrims. That's what I did in Gears 1 and even Gears 2. And even Gears 3 to a point. Played more GB, not so much scrims, but, you know, that's what I did. If the game's fun, I'll play it. So, in this January 20th, 2020, what's up? Let's take a quick gander and let's see, are they making the core game fun? Are they changing the movement? What's happening? I know this is long, but, you know, everyone asked for a long video, so I thought I'd start the video with my own points. So, what's up? We've got the update arriving Tuesday, January 21st. We've got the Cantus villain, the Nasher improvements. If you missed the Nasher improvements, that's in my previous video. Icebound map changes, interesting to see what that is. Patch notes, an event, a new Hive, and some new store. So, again, this is following the same theme of every single what's up. A couple of patches, a bit of information, an event, a Hive, and a store. Now, probably people are going to get really frustrated with how slow and everything is. But again, the reality is they'll now be working on the next tour of duty. And that's the cycle. It's a 3-month cycle. And they can't put all of the movement changes that they're probably considering into this update because it takes time to get it ready for certification and put it in the next update. That's just the way it is. Now, they might surprise me. There might be a load of stuff about the movement in here, but to me, that's not surprising. I'm not saying it's good, but I understand where it's coming from. I can't get frustrated at slow updates because that's just the system they're trapped behind. So, as a reminder, the Cantus villain arrives with the release of Title Update 4. You can learn about the totem challenges and arcade setup here. If you've purchased the bundle, you will automatically get it with no increase to the price. So again, it's like a supporter pack like we spoke about with Path of Exile, the 3-month cycle. If you like the content, you buy the bundle or the supporter pack and it normally gets some stuff. Obviously, you've got the Cantus totem system, which is going to be, spoken about the Cantus totem system. As always, it's going to be probably like 30 to 60,000 XP, some challenges. I personally don't like this system, but at least you can earn it for free through playing. That's the only benefit we can say. Character release schedule. After existing store bundle, whilst also ensuring we get the Cantus from the previous bundle owners, means a slightly different release schedule. As always, there will be an approximate 2 hours between the release of the update and the new content. So at 10 a.m. PT, the title update rolls out for update. At 1 p.m., the fix, the Nasher fix. So I basically wouldn't play until 1 p.m. PT. I don't know what that time is in American time or UK time. 3 p.m., the title update is available and you get the store. Alright, I just would wait till 3 p.m. Wait for all the little updates to happen bit by bit. Play after 3 p.m. See if the Nasher feels better. We spoke about the Nasher improving. Hopefully that fixes it, because obviously it doesn't feel nice to shoot and have the bullet go through people. It should ideally be feeling a lot more consistent. Now this is interesting. Icebound updates. I wasn't aware that this was getting changed, or that, you know, there was any sort of focus on Icebound, but we'll see what they've done. So as part of our work to improve Gears 5, the level designers are working on continued improvements to existing maps, which is good because the core game should be fun. Avid players and feedback, constantly thinking about small refinements and improvements that can make a big impact. They've already made spawn exit improvements to Exhibit, and next the changes are coming to Icebound. For Icebound, the overall goal for these changes is to provide more ways to counter the strong rifle positions of the towers, which in turn makes the Ice Lake a more utilised traversal and combat area than it is today. So basically, everybody gets up top and lancers. Now, this is primarily an issue, I would imagine, in Team Deathmatch. In King of the Hill, it's only really an issue for that middle point, and then everybody moves. But I think one of the reasons why it's such a strong vantage point is the Boltok as well. I think the Boltok probably shouldn't be on Icebound, personally. So, you know, we'll see what they do. So the layout change. The mantle cover at the top of each tower's slope has now been removed. That's a great change. Yeah, that's a really good change. So if you flank them, basically instead of just shooting up here, you can flank them and shoot the guy that sat here rifling down mid. So if you get into a good crossing position, you're rewarded for it. That's a great change. A very, very simple change. Just taking out a single piece of cover, and it makes it way more punishable. That's good. That's good change. People will probably laugh and say, "Oh, who cares? It's Icebound." But honestly, that's what we need. We need the core game to slowly become more and more fun. Weapon layout changes. The weapon layout has been modified to provide more options to counter the strong positions. Frag grenades have been removed and replaced with a drop shot. The cryo cannon has been moved to the centre of the ring, replacing the original drop shot. Oh. Cryo cannon has been moved and is now a torque bow. Ooh. Okay. Boltoks have been replaced by enforcers. Okay, I don't necessarily get the enforcer. Here's an example of where I do think TC are a bit daft. We need to think about fun, okay? Literally nobody enjoys getting killed by an enforcer, and it doesn't feel that fun to use. So, I don't really understand the notion of putting enforcers on any map. It's just not a fun weapon. Honestly, you could just leave the slot empty, or just put in, you know, this would be like a nice place to have an ink grenade or something, and not so much an enforcer. But 100% agree, Boltoks are way too strong. The cryo cannon really wasn't used, and the drop shot. Now, the drop shot, if we could have sniper, and we could have torque bow, or we could have a boom shot and snipe, like the old days of snipe versus boom, that's exciting. I don't like the drop shot. I'm not a fan of the drop shot. I think it's easy to use. I think it's cheap. I think it's just not very fun. I know pro players and a lot of players love the drop shot, but I think it's an awful weapon. Just my personal take. But that's a great change, okay? Now, people are probably going to laugh and say, wow, really? Changes to Icebound? That's going to do nothing? But if every single map had these changes, and then all of the maps were pure fun, then we could look at more maps, etc. But I think that's a good change. King of the Hill, the ground level towerings at the bottom of the slides have moved to the interior of the towers. Right, so people also can't absolutely pressure lance you in that, and it makes it super hard to cap. That's a great change. So I think that is a very good change. Now, when people do say TC do nothing, I admit sometimes they do the wrong thing and they do nothing, and when they do it, it's wrong, okay? Every developer does dumb stuff. Look at League of Legends, right? Sometimes they release a patch, like, if anybody remembers, I don't want to give you flashbacks, but Banner of Command, what made minions invincible, and pro players literally built like 5 banners of command and pushed lanes. Sometimes stuff that should never get into the game gets into the game. But, you know, TC, they changed the shotgun, they changed the Lancer fall-off rate, they've changed the movement, they've changed the Nasher consistency, they've changed the fall-off distance, yeah, again from the rifles, the damage as well to down people. They changed how flashbangs work, the length of them, they changed if you can get flash through cover, they've changed Icebound. They've done small tweaks to Hive and Horde. Horde's not the best. I see a lot of Horde players getting angry. Probably rightly so. It's not a great game mode right now. But TC do work on stuff. The idea that TC have done nothing, they've also changed escalation quite a lot. The weapons, the timers, the rings, the lives, the can they be executed or can they not, the threshold of damage when they're on the floor, the home hills, can certain weapons be placed on them or not. There has been a lot of changes. It's just slow going, and that's just the nature of they've locked themselves into this 3-month Tour of Duty cycle. And on top of that, when they need to do a big update, such as probably retune the movement or whatever they want to do with it, that needs to then get fit into the update. So we've spoke about the Nasher, so we don't really need to look at that. The Almond updates, yeah, the new Almond's coming out. You can toggle it. Basically, if you haven't seen it, it's in another video of mine. It's just reduced redness. It flashes orange when you're getting shot from an active, so you know which way to move. We've added a small delay from meleeing and firing, so less speed boost, less two-piecing. The free-for-all timer has been lowered, so you can get up quicker in free-for-all. There's less ammo in the overkill. The Breaker Mace has been retuned to spawn less frequently. Arcade Blitz, some changes to the hill, and escalation changes, which I can't pretend to understand because I don't play that game mode. I've played it like 10 times and I just didn't find it fun. I'd rather play execution scrims, but they don't exist. But again, there's some good changes in there. Are they perfect? No. Should the Breaker Mace probably be in free-for-all? No, but let's take it step by step. Maybe the Breaker Mace is a problem because it's spawning too frequently. When the Breaker Mace has now got double its spawn time, let's see if it's as much as a problem. If it still is, let's think about it. But you've got to take it step by step. You can't change everything at once. Otherwise, you don't know what the key factor is. If you change an entire champion's kit in League of Legends, and it turns out that it's really weak, if you've slashed everything, you don't know which was the killer number you changed. You've got to do things in stages. So we've got some characters, some bug fixes. Again, the pit. While scoping with a long shot on a slide, the scope will now accurately show where your slot will land. Oh, okay. That's interesting. So if you're sliding down the pit with a sniper, it will show where your shot is going to hit. Okay. And obviously there was that bug where people could float and fly in the pit. They've fixed that. We've added some expected wait times. A little bit hesitant about that because I feel like if somebody sees that there's a really long wait time, they're probably just going to not search that playlist, which just sort of emphasizes the issue of having a low pop playlist. Personally, I'm still a big fan of lobbies because if you sit in a lobby and you see 3 people in that lobby, you're like, hey, we only need 6, 7, you know, depending on locks or whatever, however many more people you need. So personally, I'm a fan of lobbies because you get to see it filling up and it feels less empty and soulless. You're more likely to wait for the game to fill if there's 5 people sat in a lobby, but if you're sat in a matchmaking system and it says estimated time 6 minutes and it shows nothing else and you don't know how many people you've got, yeah, you're probably more likely to quit. So you could do what Halo does, and it shows how many people are currently in your search. That would be a nice change, a mixture of the two. Added a marked all as viewed to the customization menu. That's a nice change. Probably should have had that at launch. Fixed an issue for global chat to not display, so you might finally be able to talk to each other. Meat shields can be tagged by an opponent. We've got Guardian. If you join in progress and the leader is alive, you will actually respawn. PC crashes that could occur shortly after launch. I've had a few crashes whilst playing, especially to do with the kill cam. Since I've disabled it, I think I haven't crashed, but it'd be interesting to see if that's still crashing. The event we've got going on is Golden Gun. So I imagine that's going to be one shot, one kill. Pick up 108 kills to earn the Rat Blood Spray and the Golden Boltox skin. So if you're into that, Golden Boltox, log in. We've got a new Hive and a new skin. He looks like a Gears 2 character, the Locust Bolter. Personally, again, locking Locust characters away behind the shop just feels awful. Also, do note, like it says here, if you purchase this, you won't actually get the skin unless you have the base character, so please note. Somebody made a really interesting point that I wouldn't have thought about otherwise, and I can't remember your name, so sorry, but the point was the Locust characters should cost less because you can't use them in PvE modes. They're only in PvP, and you only get to use them basically half the time. That's an interesting point. Definitely something TC should probably think about, because yeah, why should a COG character that you can play in like Horde, Escape, and all of this cost as much as just basically in a multiplayer character? You know, you've got your skins and stuff like that if that's what you're into, but that's what it is. We'll check out this week. That's it for this week. With Title Update 4 on its way, we're working on our next series of updates. We're also working on ways to keep you updated about the process of development when it comes to addressing issues, bugs, better than our one-to-one or weekly streams. Movement is our next focus for a blog spotlight, which is our goal to provide a clear look where we are now and where we want to go. So again, Ryan, I think, said it was a process. He needs to get everything basically the same entrance and exit speeds, and then they can slow things down or whatever they want to do. It's going to take time. That's just the nature of the game. Personally, I think, and people will probably laugh, I think that's probably one of the better updates to the game. They've actively changed one map from being awful to being pretty good. They've fixed the Nasher. They've brought out a couple new skins which you can grind for. You might not like the grinding process, but, you know, I can't change that. They've shown that they're doing some updates to free-for-all, and they're thinking about the Breaker Mace problem. And they've brought out, again, another update saying that they understand that their one-to-one dev blogs might not be reaching enough audience, and they want to keep us better informed, and they're going to work on that. So honestly, I don't think that that's a bad update. I think that's a pretty decent update. Really. I'll let you know, I'll ask what you think, but I think that's an okay update. Is it going to save the game? No. But there's not going to be a singular patch that saves the game. It's going to take work, and it's going to be, do TC want to put in the work to save the game? Or do they want to just cash in and then wait for Gears 6? That's where we're at right now. And currently the community are eating each other up. They're all arguing. I've got people attacking me on Twitter. I've got people React Andys watching my videos. I've got, this and that. Listen, if anybody's watching this, which I highly doubt pro players aren't, but if there's any pro player that's watched all of this, listen, absolutely no beef with any pro player. I'm just saying, it's a very small scene. We can't have the delusion level that TC are going to treat the game the same way in esports like Dota or League has been treated. We've got to build up the game, and unfortunately, I know you pro players don't give two craps about the Icebound changes probably, but if all of the maps had this level of slight tweaking to make the game more fun, we might be getting somewhere. You know? Anyway, that's me signing off. That was the What's Up. As always, if you have enjoyed the video, leave a thumbs up and a comment. Yeah, I'd love to hear you guys' feedback. Also, there was somebody that I wanted to personally reply to in this video. And it was just to illustrate a point effectively. To have a look. If I could load up this video just to make this video ever so slightly longer than it probably should be. It was this here. It was to WizTH30. Basically, when I'm playing or I'm streaming, I normally go to youtube.com/comments. And when I've got a little bit of spare time, if I could actually type it in, I will respond to everybody I possibly can do. And I try to be fair, and I try to basically respond to everybody I can. If anybody watches this, they'll know I respond to a lot of comments. I really do try my very best to respond to almost every comment, whether it's just seeing a comment I think was well thought out or I agree with, I'll give it a heart, a thumbs up, maybe I'll react to it or whatever. I do try my very best. These are the only comments I haven't responded to. You know, I tried to get through them all. So basically, he wrote a really, really long reply. Multiple, you know, statements. And sometimes I just don't have sometimes I don't have the time to physically respond to everybody. He makes the point that basically, I think, fuck you, my view, I only care about the views. It's not like that. I think I'm one of the channels that listens to people the most and tries to actively start discussions and let people have back and forth. Sometimes I don't get time to answer it. The reason I was a bit confused with your question was because I said TC listens too much because there's a lot of noise back and forth. They probably should just focus on making the core game fun and less about balance from two sides. Sure, there are players who prefer the more tactical style of Gears of War, where others prefer the fast-paced movement. Oh, sorry, he just said fast style of Gears 3. And I just, because that wasn't edited at the time, I just said, oh, are you trying to say that Gears 3 was faster than Gears 1? And then it went on to a big, long, you know, post. And I didn't have time to fully read it all and sit out and make a proper response. Sometimes I'd rather give no response than give a half-assed response. So sometimes I read them, but I just don't reply. I do read all my comments. Some channels don't. I do. But yeah, that's it. Anyway, as always, if you've enjoyed this month's content, we've got 8 days to go on the content goal. We're 75% of the way to our content goal. If you've enjoyed my work, I'm trying to keep my head down. I'm not involved in any drama. I've avoided it. I'm acting pretty well. Gotta, you know, I'm just doing my thing. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I kept this one longer because everyone seems to say that they want longer videos, so I just did a bit of an intro. I don't know how you feel about that, but again, as always, the likes, the comments, the support, whether it be just emotional love on Twitter or in the YouTube comments, goes a long way. I really do enjoy reading your positive feedback. If you've got something negative to say, go ahead and say it. You're allowed to. Again, if you want to support the content goal so I can actually put more effort into this, I recently just spent basically that content support goal on basically a camera, a tripod, and some cables, so hopefully the camera quality will improve. So that's kind of where that's going. So yeah, there it is. I'll get the video out. Stop talking, just stop talking, nobody cares. Switch the video off.